ACRONYM group that sabotaged Iowa Caucus, birthed by billionaire who funded Alabama disinformation campaign. Silicon billionaire Reid Hoffman funded the creation of ACRONYM, the group that sabotaged the Iowa Caucus results, after bankrolling voter manipulation campaigns, including the notorious online, quote, false flag operation, end quote, in Alabama's 217 Senate race. And that's by Max Blumenthal of the Grey Zone. At the time of publication, February 6, 2020, the winner of Iowa's Democratic Party caucus is still unknown. Senator Bernie Sanders, the clear winner in virtually every exit poll, is currently ahead in votes. Yet somehow Pete Buttigieg, a favorite of the party establishment, who was unbeknownst to most voters until last year, has claimed victory. The force accused of sowing the confusion and disarray surrounding the first Democratic Party contest of the 2020 election season is a dark money nonprofit called ACRONYM. It was ACRONYM that launched Shadow Inc., the mysterious company behind the now infamous, unsecured, completely unworkable voter app, which prevented precinct chairs from reporting total vote totals on caucus night. The exceptionally opaque ACRONYM was itself created with seed money from a Silicon Valley billionaire named Reid Hoffman, who has financed a series of highly manipulative social media campaigns. The billionaire founder of LinkedIn, Hoffman is a top funder of novel Democratic Party social media campaigns, accused of manipulating voters through social media. He is assisted by Dimitri Melhorn, a corporate consultant who pushed school privatization before joining Hoffman's political empire. One of the most consequential beneficiaries of Hoffman's wealth is ACRONYM CEO Tara McGovern, a 33-year-old former journalist and Obama for American veteran. Once touted as, quote, a weapon of a woman whose innovative tactics make her critically important to the Democratic Party, end quote, McGovern's name is now synonymous with the fiasco in Iowa. She also happens to be married to a senior advisor to Pete Buttigieg's presidential campaign. Back in December 2018, McGovern personally credited Hoffman and Melhorn's, quote, investing in U.S., end quote, initiative for the birth of her dark money pressure group, ACRONYM. Quote, I'm personally grateful and proud to be included in this group of incredible political founders plus startups at Reid Hoffman and his team, led by Dimitri Melhorn, have supported and helped to fund over the last 2 years, she declared on Twitter in December 2018. At the time, Hoffman had just been exposed for funding Project Birmingham, a covert disinformation campaign consisting of false flag tactics that aimed to depress voter turnout and create the perception of Russian interference in the 2017 Alabama Senate election. Hoffman and Melhorn have also faced scrutiny for their alleged operation of a series of deceptive pages which attempted to manipulate center-right users into voting for Democrats. Today, ACRONYM's McGovern oversees a massive Facebook media operation that employs similarly deceptive techniques to sway voters. Through youthful tech-centric operatives like McGovern, Hoffman and Melhorn are constructing a massive new infrastructure that could supplant the party's apparatus. As Vanity Fair reported, quote, Hoffman and Melhorn, after all, are not just building a power base that could supplement traditional Democratic organizations, they are potentially laying the groundwork to usurp the DNC entirely, end quote. Having fostered friendships with nationally known Silicon Valley oligarchs like right-wing libertarian Trump supporter Peter Thiel and Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, is now making his name as a top sugar daddy of the Democratic anti-Trump resistance. Following Trump's election in 2016, Hoffman plowed his money into an array of new Democrat-aligned social media groups through a funding hub he founded called Investing in U.S. To run Investing in U.S. on a day-to-day basis, Hoffman tapped Dimitri Melhorn, a venture capitalist and political strategist accustomed to walking the line between the corporate world and the Democratic Party. Quote, "There is no risk capital or growth capital arm of the resistance, and so that is what we've tried to build," end quote, Melhorn told Vanity Fair. Quote, "Now in terms of what that implies that we are backing founders, so people who we think have big, potentially game-changing ideas," end quote. Melhorn's career path tracked closely with neoliberal favorites like Pete Buttigieg and Cory Booker. He studied at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, launched his career at McKinsey's Associates, and became a leading advocate for school privatization as the chief operating officer of Michelle Rhee's Student First. According to Melhorn's bio, he sits on the board of American Prison Data Systems, a company that claims to reduce recidivism by giving prisoners tablets to study coding for 5 hours a day. Melhorn is also an advisor to the Democratic group DigiDems, which Pete Buttigieg's 2020 presidential campaign paid $1,540 for technology services. In 2018, Medium Post announcing the, quote, "founders," end quote, that investing in U.S. plan to back, Melhorn resorted to distinctly neoconservative talking points to emphasize the mission of his organization. After quoting Ronald Reagan, he declared, quote, "Trump and his movement, borrowing heavily from other authoritarian criminals such as Hugo Chavez and Vladimir Putin, promised to hollow out America's principles in favor of his own personal enrichment," end quote. Pledging to, quote, "inoculate our politics and our economy against corruption, white nationalism, and mass deceit," end quote, Melhorn announced major donations to, quote, "diverse groups," end quote, with names like Woke Vote, Push Black, and an, quote, "anti-Nazi," end quote, organization known as Integrity for America. Among the top recipients of support from investing in U.S. was McGowan's ACRONYM, which Melhorn described merely as, quote, "a media group," end quote. As the Grey Zone reported, ACRONYM has ballooned since its founding into a massive dark money operation, even launching a super PAC dubbed PACRONYM that has raked in money from hedge fund billionaires like Seth Klarman and Donald Sussman. What Melhorn and Hoffman never disclosed to the public, however, was their support for a Democrat-aligned group that waged a covert online disinformation campaign which aimed to influence the outcome of the 2017 special Senate election in Alabama. The 2017 Senate election in Alabama was one of the most dramatic races of President Donald Trump's first term in office. Treated by national media as a referendum on Trump in the red state, it pitted a far-right Republican, Roy Moore, against Doug Jones, a moderate Republican who ran as a Democrat. In the end, Jones won an upset victory in a deep red state, thrilling Democrats across the country. As Dan Cohen wrote in a series of reports for the Grey Zone, the outcome of the 2017 Alabama race was heavily influenced by an online disinformation campaign. The campaign, which was unknown to voters at the time, was called Project Birmingham. Silicon Valley billionaire Reid Hoffman provided $100,000 to the architects of this Black Ops campaign. His money was pipelined through American Engagement Technologies, a company run by Obama administration veteran and Democrat tech operative Mikey Dickerson. Through the AET, another firm comprised of Obama campaign veterans and national security state operatives called New Knowledge, was contracted to carry out the secretive voter manipulation project. In internal documents first covered by the New York Times, Project Birmingham's architects described the scheme as an elaborate false flag operation, which aimed to convince voters that the Kremlin was supporting more through thousands of fake Russian bots. Project Birmingham went to absurd lengths to drive voters away from more. Its architects deployed a phony Facebook page encouraging Alabamans to vote for an obscure write-in Republican candidate, arranged interviews for the candidate in major newspapers, and even sought to arrange super PAC funding for his dark horse campaign. The deeply undemocratic campaign was overseen by a cast of characters remarkably similar to those who bungled the 2020 Iowa Caucus count. Like the staff of ACRONYM and Shadow Inc., the New Knowledge operatives who carried out Project Birmingham were 30 and 40-something techies who had worked in the Obama administration and on various Democratic campaigns. New Knowledge was branded as Yonder after the scandal was exposed in national media. The devious tactics they waged in Alabama likely influenced the outcome of the election. A leaked, quote, Project Birmingham debrief, end quote, claimed the new Knowledge Black operations, quote, moved enough votes to ensure a Doug Jones victory, end quote. After the scheme was exposed, Hoffman issued a public apology and claimed he had no knowledge of the new Knowledge Disinformation Project. He said nothing about the investing in U.S. employee who worked directly on Project Birmingham, however. This was hardly the first time Hoffman and Melhorn's fingerprints were discovered on a deceptive voter manipulation campaign. Following the 2018 midterm congressional election, Reid Hoffman and his henchman Dimitri Melhorn faced further scrutiny in national media, this time for operating a fake news-style organization called News for Democracy. This shady outfit managed an array of community Facebook pages, initially focusing on sports, Christianity, patriotism, and other topics that were likely to generate interest from right-wing voters in swing states. Yet the seemingly locally branded cultural pages took a decisively political turn as election night approached. After racking up millions of likes, News for Democracy slipped in ads for Democratic Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke on a Facebook page targeting evangelical Christians, and attacked a Republican candidate, Senator Marsha Blackburn, on a page focused on local Tennessee sports. While Hoffman's right-hand man Melhorn claimed to reject the spread of information, he told the Washington Post that through projects like News for Democracy, he aimed to, quote, mirror, end quote, the tactics of the notorious Russian internet research agency Troll Farm. Facebook eventually launched an investigation into the insidious manipulation ploys of Hoffman and Melhorn's News for Democracy. The very tactics that landed the two in hot water are remarkably similar to those that Tara McGovern, the ACRONYM founder who disrupted the Iowa Caucuses, has put on display. McGowan recently founded Courier Newsroom, a seemingly journalistic initiative that appeared to take on a more overtly partisan role with time. Like News for Democracy, Courier Newsroom has opened local news pages on Facebook with unassuming names like the Virginia Dogwood or Arizona's Copper Courier. After seeding the pages with folksy local stories, Courier Newsroom bombards users with pro-democratic political messaging. As Bloomberg reported, McGowan used her sizable war chest and digital advertising savvy to pay to have her articles placed into the Facebook feeds of swing state users, end quote. McGowan then used, quote, that feedback to find more people like them, end quote. One of McGowan's dubious news pages, the Virginia Dogwood, spent a whopping $275,000 on Facebook ads during the 2018 midterm elections. Quote, we'll try it, see if we can make it work and hopefully become a permanent piece of the new infrastructure, end quote, McGowan told Bloomberg. Tara McGovern's shenanigans in Iowa could be seen in the fight of a wider string of manipulations by the Silicon Valley-backed neoliberal network behind her. While Democratic Party elites blame incompetence for the fiasco in Iowa, the history of ACRONYM and its billionaire backers casts a disturbing shadow over the whole episode. And that's by Max Blumenthal, an award-winning journalist and author of several books, including best-selling Republican Gomorrah, Goliath, The 50-Day War, and The Management of Savagery. Max has produced print articles for an array of publications, many video reports, and several documentaries, including Killing Gaza. Blumenthal founded the Grey Zone in 2015 to shine a journalistic light on America's state of perpetual war and its dangerous domestic repercussions.